Hello volunteers, we're on to our next phase of videoing this week. Let's talk about chapter finances, one of my favorite things to talk about. Okay, so let's start out by saying this. We're asking each of you volunteers with your chapters and clubs to maintain your own finances. We want you to get your own monies together and work out how to pay for your events and activities. We'll help you with some ideas, but ultimately it's up to you. So let's start off with one of the most basic things to get the ball rolling, and that's get a chapter checking account. Now, I would suggest visit with your local volunteers to see who has contacts with a local bank that can help you get into that system easier. But the next step would be, before you can start up that account, you'd have to get yourself an employee identification number for that chapter club. Now, I recommend going through the federal government, the IRS website, and you'll find links to the employee identification number. You can fill out that paperwork online, and they typically can get you an EIN for your chapter or club within a day or so, but don't hold me to that. But that's where you would start. Get that EIN, and then you can go fill out the forms at the bank and start up your own chapter club checking account. Now, also a little bit of housekeeping to keep in mind. From year to year, we want you to make sure that you're filing with your state secretary's office and make sure that your finances are being covered through the government on a regular basis. Now, we would ask you to go ahead and fill out your 1099 each year, just so that you can account for that money as you move through from year to year, and we'll stay out of trouble with Uncle Sam. So once you get those things in place, then you can start working on getting those donations towards your chapter accounts and start moving on creating events and activities. Now, keep in mind, donations to the checking account are not tax deductible. So make sure you tell your people that any money that you're getting from them for your events, if they're going into your chapter checking account, that is not tax deductible. You are not a 501c3. We are. But we can still help you out with that. So keep that in mind as we go ahead. Now, I would also ask that you work with your chapter treasurer to make sure that you submit a yearly, actually monthly report back to the chapter on how much money is being raised from month to month. You could also give that information to us. We'd like to keep up with it just to know how you're doing. But again, we're relying on you to be self-sufficient. So keep that in mind. And again, a monthly chapter's treasurer report would be helpful so that everybody knows what's going on from month to month as you go through the year. Keep in mind that when you generate money, we want to make sure that it's a wash from program to program. Money come in needs to go out equally so that you don't have an excess of money in your account after every event. Now, we can talk about ways to spend that money. We can help you spend that money. But for right now, let's work on just getting that chapter event covered. How do you pay for those events? Janet will come forth in just a little bit and talk to you about some different ways, different types of events. But the basics are this. The money that you spend, the money that you add, you can cover that by adding a little bit on the meal fees. Now, you make money there. Use that for your events expenses. You can also find sponsors to help cover those fees down the road. And then we can always help you host a raffle for your event with different items, maybe something in your community that is kind of neat. But again, we'll let Janet talk to you about some of those ways to make funds, add funds to your accounts. But these are just some recommendations we want to share with you. One of the big things, one of the rare ways that we do help you financially is that we offer what we call the chapter rebate. Our board of directors always approves each year the concept of a chapter rebate, and it's our way of asking you to help us raise funds for Mississippi State. Now, all chapters are eligible to receive the rebate, but we have a few caveats that we ask you to go through each and every year. First thing first, we need you to request your chapter rebate to me each year by the deadline on that chapter rebate form. When you submit that request, we'll hold on to that, and then we'll follow through some of the other procedures. And the second part being, we want each one of your chapter officers to be active members of the Alumni Association. If we find that you don't have an officer that's active, you're possibly not going to receive that rebate going forward. So let me emphasize again, make sure all your chapter officers are active, and make sure you get that form to me at the deadline. The basics behind the chapter rebate have changed over the course of time, but the concept, as you can see on the PowerPoint, is that you get $1 back for every member that has given $35 or more annually to the MSU Alumni Association or Foundation Bulldog Club, and that will help with your rebate with the maximum of $1,000. So that's the basics behind the chapter rebate. And again, we will be sure to offer that rebate each year, but you have to follow those certain rules. One being all officers are active when we get that form in by the deadline. Now again, we'll talk about other sources of revenue going down through the videos as we look ahead, but keep in mind these are just some things you can try. Drawings, auctions, merchandise sales, golf tournaments. A lot of you guys try to do golf tournaments from year to year. Tennis tournaments are neat. We've always talked about fishing tournaments, but these are all different ideas that you can play on. But just think about other ways to pick up revenue for your events and activities. When conducting raffles, drawings, please make sure you're keeping in mind the state's laws with regards to gambling and those kinds of things. We want to do everything on the up and up as we move ahead. But again, more ideas to come. Stay tuned. In the event that you have a surplus of money in your account, we've got some ideas for you on how to spend that surplus for your chapter and club activities. The best way, in our estimation, would be to put that money into the scholarship fund that your chapter has. That's the most efficient way to make sure Mississippi State continues to grow, by giving money back to a worthy student in your area. A second idea would be to add to your chapter advancement fund. Some of you have already started an advancement fund, but again, we can talk more about the advancement fund in another slide, but that's something to consider as your chapter advancement fund. You can always host an event for local alumni and friends in the area with regards to prospective students. That's another great way to spend that surplus money. And then you can always sponsor participation in your chapter club leaders coming to the leadership conference whenever we have that back on campus. It costs money to get you here, so we would love for you to use that money to maybe get some of your officers here and take part in the in-person leadership conference that we hope to have one day soon. Another way would be to use that surplus money to sponsor a sign for Mississippi State at one of your venues, maybe a high school football game or somewhere around the town. So that's another way to showcase Mississippi State in your neighborhood. So those are just ways to spend that excess that you have after you've had your events.
Okay, so working on your chapter finances, of course, you've got to raise money. And that's always a favorite topic for all of us to talk about, but here we go. So why are you raising money, and how do you do it successfully? Well, to be able to fundraise successfully, you got to learn to build relationships with people that you're going to ask to help you. You need to learn some fundraising basics, kind of get over the fear of asking. I mean, we all kind of have a fear of asking for money, except for our parents. Got to make your cause of why you're asking for money and set a goal and learn how to ask in a really good way. Now, why do relationships matter when you're going to ask somebody for money? You want to engage people and build that relationship so that they know what you're looking for. You understand what they want to support and how they want to support it. You want to be able to tell your story about why you're raising money and offer ways in how that money will help future students, help in your chapter programming, and what the outcome will be. Raising money is hard. We all know that. But you need to know who you're talking to, and they need to know about you also. And that way they can help support the cause. Have the buddy system when you're going to go out and ask for some money from somebody. Take another chapter volunteer, and the both of you can build each other up and give each other courage to make that ask. People see what you're doing, and they see that as a positive. They'll want to help support. So who are you actually going to ask? Are you looking to ask an individual, a company, another organization? And what are you asking for? Actual dollars, so money? Or are you asking for an item or any other kind of support? And how much are you asking for? You're going to be told no, and that's just part of the game. But you got to have some resilience and just keep asking. But the more specific you are and the best attitude that you have about fundraising, the better chances you have. So don't go into an ask thinking somebody's going to tell you no. You got to have that positive attitude and hopes that they will say yes and support what you're asking. And give them a concrete goal. So let them know what you're asking for, why you're asking, and how they can help you achieve that goal. Overcome your fear. And this is lessons we all need to implement every day. First, you've got to be able to walk the walk and talk the talk. So if you're able to give yourself, then you can give that as an example of why others should give. That's why we ask all volunteers to donate to Mississippi State, because if you're going to ask somebody else to do so, we ask that you lead by example. Believe in what you're asking for. Listen to the person that you're asking. Just engage in that conversation. Again, relationship building. Listen to what they want to support, and that'll help you understand what they're after and how they want to help support you. And then they'll in turn listen to you and what you're asking for, hopefully. And just be prepared when you go in to make the ask. And making your case. So what is your case? Sometimes you want to be prepared with data and feel-good heart stories to make your case to someone about why they should help support your chapter's cause. Not everybody's going to give because you ask. If you just say, hey, can you give money to support our chapter scholarship fund or this event, they're not always going to do that. You need to come in prepared to talk about how this money is going to help students attend Mississippi State, or by them sponsoring this event, how this event is going to be hosted, what the impact of this event will be, and maybe even let them know we anticipate this number of people, so this many people will see that you're a sponsor and get your name recognition out there. Got to give them a reason to want to donate than just saying, hey, we need your help. We talked about this before in recruiting volunteers, so it's kind of the same way with fundraising. You got to make a good ask. Give a specific question about, hey, will you sponsor money for this student recruiting event? Will you donate an item for our silent auction so we can raise money to support a bus trip for students coming to Mississippi State for a visit? Be more specific in your ask if you can, and don't just be global and say, hey, you want to donate to our chapter. Set a goal. It's always good to have goals. This might be more of a practice to implement in our own lives, but does your chapter want to raise X amount of dollars to pay for this scholarship, X amount of dollars to host this event? How many donors do you need to reach this amount? Show progress, create a buzz. We do this for our Hail State Giving Days and for our chapter challenge, when we kind of show a thermometer of, or the cowbell, filling the cowbell up about the number of donors. So any kind of buzz you can create through social media or connecting to your members kind of creates some hype a little bit to that, if that's the avenue you're going to go with fundraising. Show how your fundraising will make an impact. If you don't ask, you don't know. Michael's always telling me, you don't know until you ask. I have to agree. You're not going to raise anything if you don't ask anybody. So what are some ways to do some simple fundraising? Host a raffle at an event. If you're going to do an online raffle, you just have to follow state laws in regards to that. You can do a silent auction of unique and donated items. So if you're going to ask somebody to donate an item, be specific in what you would like to ask them to donate. So if they own a business and you want to auction off a grill and they have some, so go specifically and ask them, would you be willing to donate a grill from your business for our auction? Is there a business in your town that helps with charity nights? I know sometimes like a Chick-fil-A or a Pizza Hut or a McDonald's does a fundraisers for your local schools, like sponsor a night, and 10% of the proceeds that night, if you tell them go to support this cause, they'll donate. See if you can make some kind of arrangements like that. Does somebody in your chapter area make, are they crafty? Do they sell items that they would be willing to donate for your raffle? Always think about those in your area that you can ask. Something that requires a little more effort in your fundraising. Hosting a drawdown. We have several chapters that host drawdowns, and they usually tie it in around either a football game or a social event. Hosting a silent auction at your local events. This is when we can go back to do it in person. If you're gonna sell goods, especially if you're gonna do t-shirts or caps or anything Mississippi State related or chapter related, but you also must make sure you use a licensed vendor to produce those products if you're gonna use MSU logos. Host a golf or a tennis tournament or a skeet shoot or some kind of race. And if you're gonna do an actual sponsorship drive and seek out sponsors, consider having the sponsors be for the year, not just for your golf tournament or a tournament. Offer them tiered options, different price points, and help publicize those businesses that serve as sponsors through your social media accounts, any email communication that our office sends for you. We can list your sponsors within that. So make sure and give them the recognition that they would need in order to be a sponsor. Scholarship fundraising. Specifically, if your scholarship is hosted through the MSU Foundation, we would want you to naturally work with the Alumni Association, the Annual Giving Office. We can do that through direct solicitations, whether that be in the mail or by phone, and also working on Giving Tuesday Chapter Challenge. And many of you were able to raise a good amount of money through the Chapter Challenge, which is the first Tuesday in December, after Thanksgiving. So that's a great place to start with and really push and encourage donations through the foundation. We don't have a magic formula for raising money. Some things you just have to try. It could be something as simple if you have a social and you want to do a split the pot. Just got to be able to try different things and different avenues and not be afraid to ask people to help you in that regard. We wish you all the best of luck in raising funds, and we will be here to help you in however way we can. And so don't be afraid to talk to our office to ask for help.